Wendy. I note that the entire committee and Anne Marie are in attendance, if you want to just note that.
Got it.
And the next is to review Wendy's minutes. Anyone have comments? I went through it. I got home late last night and went through it quickly. I didn't see anything that that caught my eye.
I sent some to Wendy. Did you ever get them, Wendy?
Possibly. What was it?
I sent the Word file and I had comments and edits in the Word file.
Ah, yes.
All
Yes,
right.
I did.
All right.
And I was looking at it on my phone, which is not sort of fully featured for Word.
Right.
And I did look at it later, and it's fine. I think other people are very wordy, like when you write within, when you could have just said win or beg pardon, in, and things like that. It makes sometimes it makes the language unnecessarily flowery, or so I tend to hit those things. And I noticed that a whole bunch of them came back, so what the hell with it. If you want them, they're in.
The only one
Jen and Wendy, could you go just verbally go over them if they're substantive at all?
There was one I wanted to bring out.
Let me see if I can find that.
In 2A2, the second sentence is, these will likely include specifics for hardware to be used in data collection. It's referring to the BEAD challenge process. So the BEAD challenge process doesn't provide for hardware testing for speed test challenge.
Yeah, I understand that, but we're going to need to have it anyway, aren't we?
Okay, I guess, but I'm just saying it refers to the BEAD. In other words, if you're referring back to NTIA BEAD challenge, the hardware data collection that's a self-imposed requirement, right? That's not coming from NTIA.
Okay. Okay.
Right, so
I'll fix that.
Yeah, so if you're going to say that they're likely going to mirror those sent by the federal NTIA, then you're talking about software-based speed tests.
Okay. Got it. I will fix that. Anything else?
Well, that was the major one. Maybe the only other one to mention that was more than just a text change, the 2B3 about obtaining open CAPE contracts. So Catherine sent those to us a few weeks ago.
So we have
Okay.
those. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and the rest were just text changes. I don't think that they were more for clarity.
Okay, I will take care of those.
DIII, the FWA is a mistake, but I actually think it might leave it alone because it explains what it is better than any other description. The FWA there.
Okay.
You have it as fiber to wireless. It's technically fixed wireless, but I'd almost leave it because it actually explains what's going on better than the industry standard there.
Which one are we on?
You look at D, information requests, and go to the third one down.
Oh, yeah.
Blah, 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 T-Mobile, FWA, fiber to wireless.
Fiber to wireless.
That is what it is, but it's not, it stands for fixed wireless, but it is fiber to wireless.
Well, I'm thinking that, whoever reads this has got to understand what we're talking about. So that's why I did that. But I can change it if you want.
It's like clarity versus accuracy. It's clear what you mean, and it's clear to a reader what it is.
Have a good day. Love you.
So I'd just say leave it.
My office assistant is going to work now, so.
It's important with the minutes that it's what was said.
Well, what was said was the letters.
Okay. Because now we're changing the context of how it was, of the meeting. We can't really do that. The minutes need to reflect that. And
Well, yeah, but if I just write FWA and people don't know what it is when they go read the minutes, that's not helpful.
No, that's not changing the context of what was said. It's just indicating it's just defining what FWA is. We have to be careful at not changing the context through edits and being more, because sometimes if we want to try to clarify, clarify something.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't see that we change the context by
if we're not changing the context of what was said, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't change the context. The FWA stands for fixed wireless access.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine.
That's what that's just what it stands for.
Okay, any other comments on the minutes? Jed, anything else?
No, there were other small things that Wendy's got.
Okay. Anyone else?
I make the motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy, for writing these. It's a thankless job. This is
Thank you, Wendy.
very
Oh,
detailed.
it's not thankless. You guys thank me from time to time. I appreciate
We're
that.
going to thank you every meeting because we are very appreciative, because I'm going to tell you right now, if I was responsible for it, it would not go well. So nice job. Thank you.
I'll
you're very welcome.
Catherine's motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Did you just say you're right about that?
We've had a motion made. Do I hear a second?
I said you're very welcome, Catherine.
Jed seconds. Okay. Okay.
I'm just teasing you.
Okay.
Wendy.
All right.
Note that everybody thanks Wendy. All those in favor?
No, that will
of the
not be in the
motion?
minutes, but you're welcome.
All those in
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Okay, moving on. Old and ongoing business. Brian, anything new? Any new contacts with the Tech Council?
Not since last week.
Okay. Anything going on in any of the other towns, Jed or Wendy?
So
I
captured from the minutes an overview of the RFI results, and I sent that out.
I got, when I went to that meeting, they made this wonderful big thing summarizing like everything. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
No, because your background won't allow us to.
Oh, well,
Is there any way you could?
It's a big spreadsheet.
Yeah,
it is, and it lists all the providers they asked RFI from, and all the different features that they wanted. And this is 5 pages long.
Do you have the electronic version of that?
I do not. I have this, and I took a whole bunch of notes on it, so I wasn't gonna like copy it and send it out to you because of all my scribbles. But it was an open meeting, and so I said, can I have a copy of that? And they said, oh, sure. So I have it. But it has things like level and scope of interest. Criteria would be commitment to universal build out, nature of relationship with the MLB, partner, investor, builder, yes, no, maybe. It is to be noted that the Comcast column is blank and says not interested. But it also talks about things that they can do or things that they won't do. And so they're going to go to the first couple, I think maybe the first 4, which are their top 4 choices, which are very close together in what they want. And that would be Tilson, Go NetSpeed, Open Cape, and Whip City.
Yeah,
and they're going to go.
According to their notes, they dropped Go NetSpeed.
They did. Okay, because when I left, they were still thinking about it.
Yeah, the 3 that came out in the notes were Whip City, Open Cape, and Tilson. And also in the notes, they noted that Whip City, what Whip City does fits what they need, basically. That seemed to be the best fit, regardless of what in other words, Whip City is they work with MLPs, they have multiple towns that they already support, and the other 2 don't.
I'm shocked how few responses they got to this, because like it was pretty easy for us to get a hold of Matrix, to get a hold of Entry Point, which does the active Ethernet, to get a
Mhm.
hold of that European company that does it, to get a
Well,
hold of
the-
like Sumo Fiber, who does is an ISP. So like, I'm surprised how
Yeah.
narrow this list is.
Well,
They also, specified what their business model was,
so
um,
coming back to that, Brian, I think Tony mentioned that, there's a bit of work involved in actually doing the RFI. And a lot of those places don't view a single town as a big enough thing to spend time on.
right.
That's correct.
But anyway,
It's easy to send one salesperson to a 1 hour meeting.
Mhm.
It's another story to go and populate all the responses to an RFI. You're gonna get multiple people engaged to do that.
right.
It's a bigger effort.
Yeah. So anyway, what they're going to do is at their next meeting or their next couple of meetings, they're going to invite one or two of their possibilities to come and make a more extensive presentation in person. And then after that process, they're going to send out an RFP to maybe to all of them, but at least to their top two choices and see what they get. So it was a real interesting discussion. I was there for an hour and a half, and discussing all these features probably took almost half of that time.
Mm.
What I got from Jed's notes was that the most successful model seemed to be if a conglomerate of towns are put together, just from a
Yes.
financial standpoint. And
Mhm.
that's kind of because I'm looking at, and they're kind of skirting around the 800-pound gorilla in the room, but they occasionally talk about financing. And the thing you sent from Cambridge, Jed, was excellent. They really dove into it, exactly what are our options for financing.
Mhm.
Falmouth, they're kind of tiptoeing around it a little bit, as they're saying it's too early. But I think Whip City pointed out, if you put it together with other towns, the economy of scale can be well worth it.
Yes.
I don't know if that works realistically for us, but it would be, financially, certainly, I think it would make the idea of a municipal light plant more acceptable to everybody. If
Well, I
more
think one
towns are
reason they
involved.
didn't. I think one reason they didn't go into that at greater length, at least in this discussion, was because they already have the municipal light plan, and they didn't have to be, rehashing that and figuring out how that was going to work in the system. So
They
I
got
found the notes
financing.
in Cambridge about that
Right.
MLP isn't required. I thought that was an interesting bit of discussion in there. Under certain circumstances, you don't need one.
mhm.
Right, and they also talked about acceptance rate, and it seemed like the financing. And this goes back to something Tony said early on. It seemed like at 30%, you were a little tenuous. That if you could get a 40% acceptance rate, that the payback, the return on investment would be there. And that's kind of what Tony said to me the first time I met him about what his experiences were. So I'm just trying to think ahead and thinking if we were to try to present these alternatives, what the response would be in terms of exactly how we would plan to finance it and what the reality of it would be in terms of down the line, what the return on investment would be.
Yeah, and I think our best path would be to do something similar to what Cambridge did and do more or less a project feasibility study with reach out to the residents and things like that to see, what their interest levels are.
Right. Yeah. As you pointed out, I think once that there was a real problem getting certain people to cut away from cable.
Oh yeah, it's harder than you'd think.
Well, I got to tell you that I was visiting with we were visiting with some friends over the weekend, and they're in their new condo in Methuen where they have Verizon 1 gig service and everything. And let's watch the Patriots game. And my friend has got YouTube. And guess what happened? A lot of spinning circles. And apparently it was not just a local problem. And he was upset. And I'm going to call Verizon right now. And I said, well, start looking at some other channels first. The point was, if he had regular cable service, it probably wouldn't have happened because the YouTube did not apportion enough resources to their Sunday 1 o'clock game schedule.
My brother-in-law texted a friend who's a network engineer, forgot that he had went to work for YouTube fixing this problem. So they're working on it.
Yeah, they have been for a while. This is nothing new. But I'm just saying that I can see why people might be hesitant to cut over. That's all. I mean, people who don't really understand the technical issues, just does it work or doesn't it? And it's funny because the companies like what I have, like Amazon Prime or Netflix, I never have a problem. But I also subscribe to Nessun's 4K broadcasts, and occasionally that will be a problem. And I know it's not the carrier, it's really the system. It's how much bandwidth Nessun has reserved with Comcast or whatever, if they're paying any additional amount. And so, but the average consumer doesn't know that. All they just know is either I have a picture or I don't. So I can see why some people might be reticent, particularly those who are perhaps of my generation who are not all that familiar with streaming, would be a little nervous about cutting over.
These problems are going to start to be solved as frankly more and more people experience and complain about them. So the ability of people to switch to streaming stations from home is going to be much easier, especially for the non-technically adept people.
The question is, can you get 40% acceptance? That's what I'm wondering. Because it seemed to me that what Cambridge was saying was at 40%, we're not only in good shape, but we're in good enough shape where we can take people who have low income and give them a discounted price. 30%, if you look at their model, the investment went up by millions and millions, and the payback time stretched out.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges we're going to have is to truly identify what percentage of residents truly have an issue. Because where I live in Buzzards Bay, I've got 400 megabits per second. So, I mean, I have no problem. At that point, it would just come down to price, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys watch the Falmouth Facebook, I mean, the big part in the Bourne Falmouth Facebook thing. But there are some people on there saying, well, my internet's just fine and I don't want to have to pay any more money so somebody else can get it. And I'm thinking, well, okay, would you be saying the same thing if it was somebody in your town that didn't have safe water? Would you support a water district, or electricity? They're still using kerosene lanterns. Would you support an expanded electrical system so everybody in town could have electricity like you? And I haven't gotten a response back on that yet. But part of that is what you're saying. People think it works the same as their water or their electricity or their hardwired telephones, and it really kind of doesn't. And that's one of the big challenges of explaining all this to the people that are going to have to essentially have the vote.
I think Tony's right. We probably are going to need some data on it because it will inform our decisions as far as how we do it. But potentially, do we have to contract some kind of the problem might have to be education of the population, a digital equity kind of thing, like training people on stuff as simple as how do you use an internet-based TV thing to get what they need. So I feel like we need data on this to figure out how much effort's going to have to go into this.
Yeah, when we get down to a couple of items down below on the digital equity workshop, I sat in on the session yesterday with the Cape Cod Commission at the Council on Aging, and I'll give you a feedback on that. And all of the above apply, especially to the elderly.
Oh yeah.
And just a comment, I went through all these growing pains with Whip City Fiber, so at some point, if we ever want to talk about that, we can. I've been through it all.
You can be our therapist.
I can share some of my experience.
You can be our therapist, so we can get it all off our chests, and you can give us some suggested maneuvers to make us feel better.
Sure. And just one comment about process with this. That document that you showed, Wendy, I think since it was referenced and deliberated upon, I think that probably should be included in the minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which, the
big spreadsheet.
The Falmouth thing.
Yeah.
It's got my scribbles all over it. It's a mess.
Can you possibly contact your contact Sam and ask him if he could send an electronic version?
Yeah, I can do that.
Their minutes
PDF.
are posted online, or is this a different thing?
No, the minutes are
the minutes are online. They're I shouldn't be critical, but they're pathetic.
But
And they
the
don't.
attachments have to be available along with the
Yeah.
minutes.
Okay, I'll see if I can get that.
Thank you for attending, because it's definitely they're doing things a little differently than we're doing in Bourne, but they are interesting since they're a little bit ahead of
Yeah.
us.
They're way ahead of us because they've already got their MLP in place, and when they go out for an RFI and RFP, that's already there. But they were thrilled to death to have somebody from Bourne at their meeting. I would strongly recommend that we send somebody every time, and I invited them to come to ours. And
Yeah.
I think we're all kind of nudging toward the idea that it would be a good idea to join forces, and this is sort of the preliminary to that.
Mm.
So it's a long day doing 8 o'clock in the morning here, and then 7 to 9:30 there, but hasn't killed me yet. Would anybody
So-
else here to join me?
Are you talking about the Falmouth meeting tonight?
I don't think they have a meeting tonight. I think they're not going to meet till next week.
Oh, I thought it was tonight. I thought it was the Falmouth.
Town meeting
Yeah.
is tonight.
There
It is tonight.
It is tonight. Okay.
I was
Yep.
planning on going to that, actually.
Oh, good. Okay, well, I will see you there then.
Okay, all right, great.
when you-
I figured
the-
we could learn, I mean, I just thought I
Yeah.
would learn from them and listen to what they have to say.
When you get into town hall, it's when you drive up to the front door of town
Yeah.
hall,
I think
it's
you
the
folks are
wing
talking
on the
about two
far
different,
left.
you're talking about
Yeah,
two
we're
different meetings.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because I
All
think
right.
I think these guys, the MLP, aren't meeting for another 2 weeks.
We're talking about two different meetings, I'm sorry.
Okay, never
I'm
mind.
talking about the Falmouth one, yes.
Well, that is Falmouth, but it's the Falmouth MLP.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, in any case, we're whatever the other meeting is, we're only really interested in the MLP. Okay.
Yep.
Just a general question about working together in towns. Do we perhaps want to actively participate in this mass broadband coalition? Because I notice they've got towns all the way from Oak Bluffs all the way to northwestern Massachusetts on the list that was included with the minutes.
Yes,
How often?
it would line us up in MIEI's good graces to be lumped in with non-Cape people.
Yep. How often do they meet?
Don't know, seems as needed. We have to investigate and tell them we'd like to actively be involved.
Okay. Would somebody want to volunteer to contact them, or do you want me to contact them? Give me a point of contact.
I can do that if you want me to.
Okay. Brian, offline, if you've got the contact information from them, if you could just send it to Catherine, and we'll note that as a an action item to report on next week.
Okay.
If we attend their meetings, are we still limited by how many of us can attend due to the open meeting law?
Yes.
Okay, so we can no more than 3 of us can attend.
You could
I'm
attend.
more than
you
happy
just
to
can't
attend if
discuss
it's an
anything.
online thing or if it's something that I can get to.
Yeah, you can attend, more than 3 can attend, it's just you can't deliberate, you can't discuss anything.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
We've got 7 members on the line, and we usually have 10 opinions. So, okay, that's nothing
Sadly.
new. Okay, very good. Anything else on any other towns?
We all saw the thing about Wellfleet and the beaches and all that, which made the paper.
Yeah, I mean,
I did not see that. I don't get
we
the
had
Cape
a,
Cod Times
yeah, it was on the
anymore.
Cape Cod Times. So we had John, we had a meeting with them. I don't remember if you were on the call. Might have been just me.
Oh,
Brian.
yeah, I was at the very end of that call. Yes.
Yeah. So that news article was pretty much complete overlap with what we discussed with them back in August. Nothing new, really.
And they're not really talking about anything but the beaches and possibly anything that's adjacent to the beaches.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
strictly public safety and for government use in emergencies. When we discussed, I the tech council put me in touch with them when they were grant writing, and I offered Bourne's grant request as a template, and so we shared ideas and stole material from each other. So I saw this before it was even awarded, but yeah, strictly for government use, because right now, if someone gets hurt, they have to like take a dune buggy up and out of the dead zone in order to like summon help. And so this is to get around that for purely public safety use.
And if it benefits anybody else, oh well. You know.
They don't want to oversaturate it, given that it's
Mm.
for public safety. So they're
Yeah.
not opening it to members of the public, and it's only just going to be town employees on there.
Okay.
There's limitations with Starlink as the backhaul, as far as, you know, if you overuse it.
Yeah, he said they were trying to use that.
Okay. Anything else on any other towns?
We had New Bedford on here, Bob?
Yes, yes. That was kind of a bust yesterday. I was at a meeting, and I was under the impression it was going to be a relatively small meeting. There were 200 people there, and every South Coast politician was there, because although I was there representing the Picasa Water Quality Coalition, and we got a small grant. New Bedford got over $1 million. So they had every politician and every department chair got up and spoke for 3 hours. And then the mayor thanked everybody and rushed out the door with all of his staff. I did talk to one public, I guess she's a press officer, and she is going to send me some contact information. Was supposed to have been in this morning. I haven't seen the email this morning, so I'm hoping to see it. There'll be for anybody who cares, there'll be a picture of at least our grant people there tomorrow. But there were 18 grants that were given, and they all had a little bit of platform time, shook hands, and nothing more.
Bob,
they
may I
have
jump in? I'm
yes.
sorry. May I jump in for a quick question? So what I'm hearing is that you weren't able to have time with him, so we don't actually have those materials that reflect the program that they're rolling out. And that's the material that I was going to take to both of the schools, the Tech and Bourne schools, correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
I have
okay.
somebody who's contacting me to give me a point of contact, in addition to what was the person's name? I can't recall off the top of my head. The out of town person. There's somebody in town who manages that.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Thank
as
you.
soon as I get that, I will forward it on to you, Catherine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. So that's it for New Bedford for now. The next is the new item that was added to the agenda based on what we just got from MBI on the GAP Networks program. I have not gone through that in detail, although David still explained it to me yesterday. Anybody who's read it completely, the one limitation that seemed to be is though it could be used to fill gaps, it was not going to be allowed to overbuild anything that's already existing. In other words, overbuild Comcast. So if Comcast goes and uses the money to fill gaps and improve things, then they'll probably have preference over something else for a new system that goes in to try to fill these gaps.
So sorry, which grant program? I missed the opening words of your statement.
Okay, this is item D. It's listed here as the GAP Networks program. A number of you got and saw, and Wendy circulated a newsletter from MBI that's got a short description of it. But somebody who's read through this whole thing, it looked very complex to me, and I wasn't able to read through the whole thing. Explain that. It's essentially. Go ahead.
That's why I like. There's not this one dropped with very little warning and a very tight timeline. So I just moved to write a letter to the select board requesting that we get a consultant on this, since it actually looks like a large pile of money we could get for the town, between 1 and 3 million. So we might actually want to jump on this, given the amount of money that we would get by right, since it's strictly off the existing FCC maps.
Wow.
And MBI has already said we have 150 to 400 or so properties in Bourne. And it's some quick, math, and that's like 1.1 to like 3.1 million. I put the numbers in my work in a letter that I sent out, and I figured given the tight time frame and the amount of money, and that this is going to be undersubscribed. So it looked like MBI is already thinks they have twice the amount of money they need to solve this problem. So we have a high chance of winning, and there's a lot of money at play. So I was thinking, if this is the time to ask for money, this is for help. It's this thing.
And do we have the link to that? Did you send that out?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
December 11th is the application deadline. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what it says
Yeah.
here. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I did read
And-
that one. Yes, December, and the next one is April, I think, right?
hmm
And it seemed actually like a better program. So maybe that's why MBI didn't publicize it, so the Comcast could scoop up the money. But there's a lot of money that could come to Bourne by right. So it actually looked better than it looked interesting. It looked really interesting given the amount of money at play and the lack of competition, since it looks like it's going to be undersubscribed.
So the link for the actual program is in the chat window.
Thank you.
So do you want me to like edit this for spelling and punctuation and stuff like that, and
Sure,
clean it
go
up,
right
clean
at,
up the,
go
clean
right
up the
ahead.
language a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to pop it up on the screen now, because it's
Yeah,
such a
I think we
high,
ought to
high-speed
review
one, we
it
should
right
just do it
now.
now.
Yeah, I have it up here, but I just copied it into.
Maybe
the
you want to
Word
share a
processor.
screen and we'll edit it. It's not a particularly long letter. And I'm straight up stealing slides from MBI's
I've got it,
presentation
yeah.
as my backup
I
data.
can bring it up if you want.
Okay.
That'd be
Let me
great.
see if I can do it. Okay, so let's see. Share screen.
So
And
is this a letter of intent to apply for the grant?
No, I'm suggesting our committee request funds from the select board to hire a consultant because of the amount of money at play and the timeline, and the fact that this is likely to, so some grant programs get oversubscribed where you get 10 times the number of grants than they have money. This looks like it's going to be the opposite. MBI is already estimating that they have twice as much money as they're going to have demand.
Do we have any
So
feeling
that
for how
whole
much?
we're not gonna meet that deadline. That whole process, we can't add any additional monies this go around. That's something that's gonna have to be approved by town meeting. I doubt that we'll have, this is additional money in the budget. This would be additional monies. I don't know that we can,
You don't have a slush fund or a discretionary fund for emergency use?
not without we've already voted on the budget back in the spring.
That wasn't my
Mm.
question. You don't have a little pot of money for emergency use? Because this would seem, given the short time frame and the return on investment, to qualify for that.
Not
we
with
tackle
the
that
way our
ourselves?
financial policies are written. We can't just, I mean, we have some funding. I know the town administrator has specific funding for some contractual things, but we already allotted that money.
Mhm.
You know, there's no way we're gonna meet this deadline and hire a consultant. That whole process takes a long time. It's not
there's
a
still-
snap of the fingers. Next week, everybody drop everything at town hall to try to get a consultant to get
But
this
is it
money.
something that we could do? Could we get permission so that we could work together in a working group and write the grant? Because there is a lot of money at stake, and it is December 11th, and I think I would be willing to help. I mean, I don't know, Brian, I know you've done grants before. I mean, how long would that take? A couple of weeks, or I guess I'd really have to look at it. Is it something we could do?
First of all, you'd have to get the process to even for this committee to move forward with the grant funding. I'm not sure approval wise if it's just approved by the select board, or if it has to be approved a little further. Is this state funding? Where's the funding coming from in this grant?
The money has been allocated to the state, and the state's
Oh, wow.
doling it out.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So the application's to MBI.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Um,
the ask
so-
is there. We're not meeting until November, what is it? After town meeting, so the 14th, and then, you know, it's sporadic because of the holidays, but to go after state funds, I'm not sure that the select board alone can approve moving forward to go after those funds and grant funding. Because
Well,
in the
given the-
past,
Given
in
the
the
amount of
past, it had to be approval. In the past, I know, and it may has changed, and I've gone after state funding through different organizations like the library and things like that for, and it had to be approved at town meeting. Select board could move it forward, but to go after these types of state funds, there's very specific rules and regulations surrounding how those funds are expended. It's not a quick
Right,
process by any
but-
means.
but, all right, so, and I hear what you're saying, and I understand there's a process, but at the same time, December 11th is gonna come before that, and, you know, we've identified a lot of money. So here's my question, and tell me if it's politically incorrect. I'm meeting with Open Cape to review our contract at Town Hall. All right, I'm gonna go through all of that. Would it be, I mean, we need this money, so is it something that we could bring to the town administrator for additional consideration, or it's for escalated consideration, or does it go to the select board first before the town administrator?
It would seem to be a crying shame to waste this opportunity. There must be a way to make this happen.
How did we?
I will tell you that we will not hire a consultant to expend monies for this, to write the
Okay,
grant.
okay, forget the consultant, and maybe it's something that we could do ourselves, because this is an awful lot of money, and I mean,
I
and
don't
the town
disagree,
needs it.
but I'm telling you, the process is
Okay.
lengthy. It's based on policy and chain of command and regulations. It's not we really should go after this money, let this committee do it kind of.
Right, I
Okay.
understand.
How
But
did we get the last one?
there's no harm in asking about that process. I mean, if you're in town hall and
I'm gonna go
want to
check.
ask the town administrator, you know, by all means, you know,
Okay.
go ahead and do it. I just think it's very tight. There's
So how
it's
did we do
very
it
tight.
before? How come, I mean, we've applied for probably a handful of grants. How did we do it before without going to the select board?
I don't
Good
know.
question.
What
question.
grants are you talking about?
Yeah,
At
Brian,
some point, the select board would have had to approved going for the grants, because it's the town that's gonna be spending the
Well,
money.
yeah, the town administrator did.
Okay. Because we haven't had any grant requests thus far.
Well, you've
Right.
got one now.
I
Right,
would,
well, in the
I
past-
would,
In the past, Bob has
is-
gone to
it's-
the town administrator and just, she signed off on it.
This is always intentional by MBI. They send something awesome out after the ability for towns to react
Mhm.
to it. When
Right.
these grants have massive points to the local government getting it. So be helpful without being helpful.
the,
So
if-
this will keep happening. So how do we figure out a mechanism so that these grants
we
that get
don't- Yeah,
dropped
so
in
we
a
don't
crisis?
reinforce this bad behavior on their part. We
Huh.
gotta, and we could be a good example to other places. So everybody could not reinforce this bad behavior on their part.
Can you give, and I don't, can you give me the amount of money approximately, Brian, that you had said that we could possibly receive from this?
Let me pull up my letter.
Well, the state's allocated 147 million, I guess.
Million.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
1.2
based
to
on the HUD thing.
3.2.
Yeah,
All right, so let's do this. When I'm at town hall tomorrow, Amory, I understand the process and, you know, that we have to follow. When I'm there tomorrow, I will reach out to the town administrator if she's there, just briefly mention this and just try to understand, you know, if it is something that maybe she could take a look at or move forward or whatever, or talk to. I mean, I'm
yeah,
not.
she's done it at least 3 times already.
Okay,
right. But much smaller grants. Just
True.
ideas if the town as the applying entity doesn't work. Other possibilities are Open Cape, the Chamber of Commerce, maybe convince the Falmouth MLP that they want to be the nominal applicant. And by the way, they're going to extend their tentacles into Bourne. You know, just ideas of other entities that possibly could do it. Maybe the Tech Council.
So there might be, so quickly jumping to have another entity do it is always a concern, because the strongest applicant is the municipality itself, with all of the way these things are ruled.
What, do we have a ballpark idea of what this consultant would cost?
I think we gotta get off that, John. It's not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to write it then.
Well, what I would suggest is, I would suggest asking the town administrator, talking to the select board, again, following that process, but being able to ask, maybe volunteers to write it in conjunction with, a select board member, and maybe it's somebody from the town.
Right.
Maybe that's not traditionally how it's done, but I absolutely think that we should propose it,
Right, well.
because it's too much money to let go.
So to say is, it looks like the groups that can submit an application, local government entity is the only one I think that we're eligible for, because we don't have an MLP. We don't have a public-private partnership, and so it's going to have to be generated from the town. I think that's the only
Yes.
the open avenue in.
And at the end of the day, we're all on the same page. We all want to do this. We all want to move forward. It's just, how do we navigate through it? So
Yep.
I think, if you talk to town hall, select anybody you talk to would be on board with this. It's just a matter of, let's navigate through the process. So why don't I take that first step tomorrow, and then I can report back. Does that work?
Right.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah,
Just
sure.
real quick on the public-private partnership, that precedent has already been set. Remember that that Marlene gave the $250,000 for the abandoned Pecasset line. That DOR grant gave that to Open Cape to serve the businesses along Main Street in Buzzards Bay. Okay, so that was state money that was given to a private entity, and admittedly a nonprofit private entity, but the partnership between the town and the and Open Cape happened with that $250,000.
I actually don't think that we should discuss this right now, because I am unclear on the facts and would like to understand that before jumping to any conclusions.
But I'll
Okay.
bet the town administrator will remember the facts and maybe see a parallel.
Okay.
Okay, we are recording this, and we can't, there's some things we need to bite our lip on.
Okay,
Ah.
that's fine. I mean, that decision was made, and it was
I know
state
it's,
money.
I know it's fact. I know it's fact, which is great, but let's leave it as fact.
Okay. No worries. Okay, Catherine, you've got a way forward on this, and just report back, and feel free to send an email with requesting no comments to everybody about what you find in your discussion.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Very good.
And just a comment, I'm sure we're all thinking the same thing, but we want to grease the skids so that when these opportunities come up in the future, we have a defined process that we can follow to execute what we need to do quickly and not miss an opportunity.
Yeah,
Agreed.
absolutely, Tony.
Also,
Yeah,
the same question's going to come up for BEAD, like where do we have to get put into the budget to have a fund for, nominal consultant work compared to the amount of money it can bring in?
It seems to me that this sort of thing probably doesn't have a lot of precedent. We know about that one precedent, but Anne Marie, in terms of prepping the select board for more of this sort of thing on timeframes that are analogous to this one, maybe it's time that they could spend a little time thinking about an accelerated process for precisely this sort of thing. We can't always do it the way we've always done it. and I understand the regulations are what they are and blah, blah. But maybe they could apply a little bit of effort into making some modifications to that on a case specific basis, for example, for exactly this sort of thing.
I'm just going to jump in on this just because I have been in town hall since I've joined planning board. I've been working in there, just volunteering, trying to understand the planning board processes. And I can tell you right now, the amount that the staff in town hall in every department is so overworked. And the IT issues that the town hall has need to be addressed, right? And everybody's working. So I think that I don't think if there's resistance because people don't want to do it, or there's, this is the way we've always done it. I think our job as a committee, right, we've identified this. We're going to go talk about a process. And that's what we'll do, is set the precedent moving forward, whatever that might look like, right? So, and I think that everybody in town hall and everybody in town will be supportive of that effort. We just have to make sure that we bring it forward in the right way. Maybe again, it's a little unconventional at first, but then we are able to streamline it into the town processes. So, and I think everybody in town hall, specifically the town administrator, would support that effort.
Good.
Just a question for Wendy. Do you think there's an opportunity, and maybe you just ask the question with our contacts in Falmouth? Are they going to be applying for this funding? And how does their organization, in other words, an MLP, how does this facilitate having to or not getting involved in putting burdens on town government staff, or not having to go through a long process to get further approval from town meeting, from the select board, et cetera? Does the MLP structure facilitate getting this done quickly?
I can tell you it does. They operate independently of the town, with the exception of funding and bill paying and things like that.
That's right. If we were an MLP, we wouldn't be going to the select board.
We could just do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But an MLP would have its own budget, so you would have to have your own monies available to, do whatever we need to do.
And would we get some of that or all of that from the town, or would we
Through
have
town
to be
meeting? You'd have a town meeting article.
town meeting? Okay.
And that you'd have an annual budget based on a town meeting article, and you'd also have a Tony Contrino. And is that former job? You'd have somebody managing. You have to have a general manager by law.
Okay. So it sounds like I don't really need to ask them, because that's the answer.
Okay.
I mean,
think that's the
I will if
I
you want.
believe I think it's the preferred answer, because it really puts us off on our own and gives us that independence.
And that brings us back to, are we going to do that? Can we do that?
In time for this grant? No.
No,
No,
not in time for this,
Takes
clearly.
takes too long for all of these BEAD grants and all of this pots of money, unfortunately.
And you need a vote at 2 consecutive town meetings, if I'm
Ugh.
not mistaken. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Over
And
2
the
years.
election of the board.
Right, then you
Spanning
have
2
to have an
years.
election, and then you have hire a manager.
Then you hire a
Yeah.
manager.
It's like 2 to 3 years before you can do anything with it, basically. So,
Yeah,
and
geez.
grants will become and gone, and the money, and as you're finding from the Falmouth meeting, the money is the 900-pound gorilla in the realm. So it's figure out where that money is going to come from is the key. And this is one of
Yeah.
these pots where it's going to
Yeah.
come from.
Is it,
Okay.
does anybody think it's possible that we could somehow piggyback onto the Falmouth thing if they do this?
What's the Falmouth thing?
I mean, if Falmouth goes for some of this grant for their underserved areas, which are different from ours, but do you think it would be possible for them to?
It sounds more difficult,
that?
to be honest with you.
Well, it does, but does it? It's a lot of money. We could
Yeah.
maybe
Right,
do that.
Just my view is the only way this is going to happen is if private citizens write the grant, go into the town administrator and say, please plug this into the website where you apply for the meeting, apply for the money from the town, just like we did with the last 3.
And then who makes the decision about how the money is applied? Is it the administrator?
Marlene.
Okay, not the select board itself.
So I'm sorry, I'm trying to write this down so I get it right. Private citizens write the grant and then what, Jed?
Bring the grant to the town administrator and ask the town administrator to apply for the money.
Okay. And if we hand it to her on a platter, so she doesn't have to do anything except put it in an
I've watched
envelope.
Bob do the last three. That's basic. If I'm not mistaken, Bob, you sat down
Yeah.
to Kathleen and typed it in.
Okay.
Exactly. Cut and
Bob and I
paste off a
wrote it,
Word
reeled
document.
it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Cut and
basically
paste
have
it.
to do everything except hit the return key, I think.
Okay, well, who's gonna do that?
Well, let's see.
If we get
Uh,
permission, I can help. Absolutely, I'll help.
Yeah, we
Permission?
can.
And they're having an information session according to that webpage that you on the 14th, on the webpage that you forwarded, Wendy.
Well, the 14th is like a week and a half away.
Yeah,
Right.
unfortunately, I have
Yeah.
I have a doctor's appointment that day in Boston.
Yeah.
They're giving it
10 a.m.
supposedly where you can learn more. I just don't know like what's involved. Is it a simple application or is it a complex one?
Well, we got a lot of smart people here. We can figure out
Yeah.
complex. And
It's by the FCC map, so I believe that MBI will be releasing the eligible locations at the same time they release the BEAD eligible locations because they are an identical list. BEAD will be more complicated than the GAP grants by a mile because of the complexity of the speed testing.
Right. Well, there's a second round on that's due April 17th also. But I guess you have to go register for their little seminar. And then after you do that, I guess then you'll know how to fill out whatever the application is.
that's for this or for BEAD?
This is
For
for
this
this,
one.
not for the BEAD, for the additional
When is it?
MBI,
For
the
this
GAP
one.
network.
Okay.
There's a link you can register for
Right,
November
yeah.
14th at 10 a.m. That's when
And I registered.
the
for that.
webinar is.
Yep, and I registered for that.
So much time
Okay.
between giving us info and making us apply. I've 2 weeks.
Well, we could always, if there's money left, you apply for the April 17th.
But I think that's the point. I think they're going to try to sweep it all into hands in the first round. So we really want to be in the first round.
We ought to look at it. Three of us should be on that webinar at least, and then make a decision. That's Tuesday. Make a decision 2 days later, and then just start doing writing assignments.
Okay.
Yeah, when it's undersubscribed, we just need a net. It's like you need to put the net out there. It doesn't have to be that good, I guess. If we can't get a good consultant to put it together, I guess we just have to hang a net out there to catch some of it.
No,
Yeah.
do what we can, and presumably we'll get, even if we don't get the grant, we'll get some feedback on what our deficiencies are, and we'll go from there.
Because we
So
don't
should
even
we-
know what they're asking for, if they're asking for something technically detailed or just a general overview. Because if they want technical details, we really don't have that.
Some of the
So maybe
information
update
on
this letter.
some of the information on where the gaps are, et cetera. David still has, okay, and he in the past has helped at least Brian and me, giving us information, giving us chunks of stuff. So I think we can get more information from him. He expressed kind of a willingness when I talked to him yesterday. Okay, so that's the way forward. Catherine, you're going to talk to the administrator, Marlene, and just ask, what the way forward might be on this. Three of us will register for this seminar. Just try to get an idea what kind of information we're going to have to provide. I will make another call to David Still, if that's okay, and just see if he's willing to help us with this. One thing that he did say is that if Comcast were to apply for this in Bourne, they would get it right away because MBI is going to be very reluctant to give money to overbuild on top of somebody else's existing system. And if it's only upgrading somebody else's system, that system will get the money first. So
we want this because we can, every parcel we can get to, we can serve everybody along the way with high speed internet. So we don't want, I don't think it's in the town's best interest to let Comcast beat us to this as far as putting fiber in, because Comcast is just going to use the money to expand the coax to the underserved parcels. And that could lock us out of BEAD funds. So I think we really need to do our best on this, because they could, if Comcast has an app in for December, they could lock us out of BEAD.
that's a good point. Okay, well,
that's why I think we still need to send this letter, even with Anne Marie's guidance, that it's impossible. Like this is the requirements to get the money that the state puts on us that are, bordering on insane in government time speeds.
Brian, can I ask you a quick question? You said
Sure.
something, I want you to back up a minute. You said something about Comcast could block us from getting the money from, can you just explain that one more time?
So because the requirements overlap, and so both BEAD and GAP are based on the FCC broadband maps, and MBI has already determined we have 150 to 400 locations that are already listed on the FCC map as underserved or unserved. And so if Comcast puts an application in December for this money and serves those locations are no longer underserved on the FCC maps.
Got it. Okay.
And so we would get no funding for those locations on BEAD. It's important to get that funding because it starts the network in town. And then with BEAD, we could use the BEAD funding request for expansion of that network if we succeed in the challenge process. But both grants will be shut down to us if Comcast manages to, or the BEAD will become that much harder because we have to win the challenge.
Right.
We won't have any more by right locations. And so if we don't play this right, the 3 million in GAP and possibly another 3 to 5 million more in BEAD funds are going to be gone. So,
so and it would be, and if both entities applied, right, and they were using the properties in the FCC map, the municipality would trump the utility company, right?
Correct. Yes. If the town applies, it would trump Comcast on points, or it should. Just in general, I haven't delved into the details because I haven't released it, but generally these are set up so that there is an advantage to the town to take, because they in recognition that the town is less equipped to prepare these things in a hurry. It's to make up the fact for Comcast can just throw money at this and get a consultant in an hour on the horn to start. So there is an inherent bias to these municipality applications.
Okay. All right. I'm actually going to go on. I did read a little bit about it, but I'm going to go pull that just so I understand and may call you with questions. Thank you for that explanation.
So by the way, Catherine, if you drill into that website that I posted in the chat, there's a PDF with all of the requirements for the grant.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let me bring the screen up here in a minute. Okay, moving on. So we're done with that. The next is the update on the digital equity workshop. I've gone around and I've plastered a bunch of locations with the one-page poster, all the post offices. all the public bulletin boards I could find, a few restaurants, etc. So people should know about this. Yesterday, I sat for an hour with it was David Still and Helene Goudreau, who set up basically a table at the entry to the morning coffee at the Council on Aging. And I listened as they talked to 4 or 5 residents who passed by. And there was pretty much, they're all obviously elderly. There were pretty much complaints about Comcast, especially for anybody who was south of the canal. Okay, that's nothing new. So it just validated what we already knew, what David Still already knew from the speed tests, etc. They were complaining about costs, access, etc. And there was a general willingness to consider another provider and maybe other ways to get television, for instance. So at least based on a relatively small sample over the course of 2 hours, they probably got no more than 15 people that they interviewed. But it generally validated everything that we've already known. And I met Peter Lindbergh, who is the head of the Friends of the Council, well, his wife actually, who's head of the Friends of Council on Aging, who was there, and gave her a bunch of flyers, etc., to go and hand out. It was interesting. Everybody who picked up the little flyer and other things complained about the fact that to get more information, you had to use a QR code. So for people who have digital equity issues in terms of education, et cetera, and ease of use, they were being instructed by the Cape Cod Commission to use a QR code to get more information online about how to more easily get online. Okay.
Yeah, well, is that like when they scan my groceries at the market basket? Is that like that? Yeah, that's the question I got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, and I said it's that easy, except you have to use your phone. Anyway, moving on.
If you have one.
So we'll see how many people actually show up. The good news is, at least based on my multiple passages across the bridge, I think the bridge will be done by the 13th. So I think the traffic issue is going to go away.
It should be done by no later than end of next week, if not sooner.
Right.
From what we were told.
Yeah, end of next week is the 10th. So
right.
So it's a few days before this session. So hopefully on the evening of the 13th, all the traffic will be cleared.
That'd be lovely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on the workshop?
Do we need someone to attend? I'm more than happy to attend.
Well, I'll be attending.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have somebody report back.
Yeah. So we'll see who attends. I'm sure the Cape Cod Commission is going to give us a good debrief on that one way or the other. In fact, should I put that on the agenda for the meeting afterwards? Ask them to come on the 16th or something to a meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that meeting is going to be at 6 o'clock at the community center?
I mean, this is all feeding into their report that's coming out in February anyway, right?
Right. But again, to have updated information on that, especially if we're in the throes of writing a big grant to fill some of these at least the hardware gaps, it'll be information we can use perhaps in the grant writing.
I would say in that context, invite them to see if they could feed into our grant. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Okay. That's another item I'll add to my call to David Still. Okay. We're done with that. Next, information requests. Anne Marie, has the select board received anything back at all from Verizon?
Not yet.
What a surprise.
I'll have conversation. We have two, we're not meeting between now and Monday, so but we're meeting early prior to town meeting. So I will I'll have a conversation then and see what the recommendation is for next steps.
Okay,
To
Hey,
try
Bob,
to-
I think this item I is the letter that we approved last week.
Yes.
oh, okay, that's right. You're right. So,
And it's not on the agenda that I could grab online for November 6th select board meeting.
No, it'll be on the subsequent agenda. It should be on the 14th.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Because the 6th is only relative to what's going to happen at town meeting.
I see that.
right,
Yep.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm going down the list. T-Mobile, I'm trying to remember exactly.
So we talked last week about getting information from T-Mobile about external antennas. So I sent a bunch of stuff out. I think it's pretty clear how it works. It's not great,
Mhm.
but like I said, I think it's pretty clear. It also isn't easy.
I'm sorry, you sent
Mhm.
stuff out to whom, Jed?
I sent it out to the committee on which day? Let's see. I sent an email
Mhm.
on this one. So it looks like I sent it October 27th
Mhm.
to the committee, and it outlines how you use an external antenna with T-Mobile.
Right, yeah.
wireless access.
Oh, that, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, this is not an easy thing.
No, it isn't, but I mean, that is just endemic of fixed wireless access. I mean, it's not like, it's a physics thing. It's not a customer service problem, it's a physics problem.
Yeah. And I am an experienced electronics technician, and this is not something that your average Joe would want to try.
No, I
because
don't-
your
I don't
chances of
even wanna
blowing it
deal
up
with
are
it.
good. Yeah,
I don't even want to deal with it. So
right. I looked at it and went, you know, they kill the thing is full of warnings about don't do this and don't do that, or
yeah,
you
yeah.
end up breaking
So-
the connector.
Yeah.
So I guess my
don't fall
point
off
is,
the
do we
roof.
need to do more here?
I
Do we
don't think
maybe
so.
ask if they got a pre-packed solution for this that they just don't
So-
advertise?
So there was a leak, there was a leak on cord cutters this week where T-Mobile's going to offer an antenna on their website. They currently don't. However, it's one of the lower end antennas. So I think the intent is that they can offer you a complete solution, but it isn't the one I would choose, that's for sure.
Do we want to engage them? Because we've been given a high-level contact at T-Mobile if we want to formally put in a letter to them.
What would be the purpose of the letter?
For them to introduce us to whomever in the company can answer these kind of technical things.
We know the answers.
Yeah.
A
We
lot
know
of this
the
stuff
answers,
is
they're just not good answers.
right.
And like I said,
The-
it's a
the-
physics problem. It's not a
Right.
customer service problem. It's a
Right.
physics problem.
It's if there are trees in the way, there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And even if there aren't
right.
trees in the way, if you're not getting a good line of sight for some other reason,
Right.
putting one of these
Right,
antennas,
right.
and I sent one to Jed for Verizon, which shows you how to take the box apart. And it's first of all, the antenna itself was several $100s. And your chances of making it work, if you don't have any experience with this, your chances of making it work are very poor.
Right.
It's certainly anything that the average consumer would be capable of. This would be somebody who's like a real hardware hacker like myself would fool around with. But
Right. But
you
at least on
wanna
the
touch this.
T-Mobile one has, the T-Mobile one has external connectors. But coming back to the point is that I don't think T-Mobile can offer us anything we don't already know.
Right.
No.
I think if we had questions on this, the broad answer is if you're at home and you have poor cell phone service, you're likely to have poor fixed wireless access service.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's the bottom line.
Right.
And-
yes,
And the
exactly. That's
solution
it.
and the solution to potential improvement is expensive and difficult.
Right. Okay,
And
moving on.
particularly, yeah, there's limited tower space for these cell phone operators anyway, so the number of locations they're at puts them not adjacent to most people's homes that are having problems. You know, unless you live within line of sight of one of these towers. I mean, look at Wendy. You know, you're not far away from that tower that's off
No.
of Barlow's Landing Road, but your reception is not good.
All right.
Oh,
I-
well, it hits
I'm
us sometimes.
hesitant to disagree with not reaching out to them because You know, we need a good reason to reach out and because right now the contact we've been given is their director of state government affairs, and we kind of need someone who's a little closer to the problem than, you know, their Washington DC person. So I kind of feel like it's a good, it's a tricky enough question. It could get us, you know, get us a good contact there.
Well, I think a context for this might be ask if they have any plans to put sub antennas on individual telephone poles to be less reliant on the cell phone towers.
Well, that would be millimeter wave, right? I mean, there's probably, to me, if we're gonna talk to them, I think it would be more about future plans, if we want to try to get them to actually respond. I don't think they're gonna respond to this external antenna thing because everything's publicly known. There's two things in the future that I guess might be worth asking about. One of them is millimeter wave. Are they going to offer the millimeter wave bands in town? And the other is fiber, right? We know that T-Mobile is laying fiber in other parts of the country. So to me, if we're going to engage T-Mobile, those would be the things to engage them on.
Okay.
Well, we know they're not going to be laying cable on this side of the canal until the bridges are built.
I don't.
They're making,
I don't know.
they're making
I
a
mean-
push in some places,
Well-
so I wouldn't say we can't guess because they're doing random things no one's expecting.
Yeah, I
over
don't,
TV.
right, exactly. I don't think the
Yeah.
new bridges, I don't think the bridge access has an issue with that, but, and the millimeter wave thing, like, if you look at everything they're offering right now, they're overlaying the 4G channels with basically, I mean, so the millimeter wave is a possible thing. We could ask them if they're gonna go and bring that through town, and that kind of goes to John's point where they're gonna start putting antennas on poles and, shorter runs and higher bandwidth. That seems to me the only thing that's we could really, I think, engage them on that they might actually respond to.
Well, one thing that they did when the FCC auctioned off all of this bandwidth in what was formerly part of the UHF television band, T-Mobile was one of the biggest buyers for all that stuff. So I'm wondering if it's possible that they could have they've invested a lot of money already.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's
So
possible if they're planning to expand their service. I just don't physically know where because of the lack of tower space we have around here.
right. Well, my point, John, is that I think that if we want to engage T-Mobile, I think engaging them on future plans for offering high-speed bandwidth in town is probably a more likely thing that they'll respond to.
Yeah, I agree. Could we initiate that letter ourselves without not having to go through the Board of Selectmen, just to say, just offer it as from the CTAC, just, ask.
I mean, anybody can send a letter to
Yeah, it's
T-Mobile.
information gathering. We're
Yeah.
allowed to do
Right,
that.
but again, I think part of sending the letter is that you want to instigate a response. And I think if it came from the select board, you're more likely to instigate a response. That's my point. And if you're asking them about future plans and what they might do, you're more likely to get someone to talk to you. I think asking them about how to do external antennas,
Yeah, they're not going
they're not going to answer that question.
Brian, what are you putting up here? I'm trying to keep track of
Oh.
your.
Well, I
edits.
pre-drafted a letter with all of Jed's info about the antennas, anticipating sending it, but I'm adding this about the millimeter wave and the connections to the poles.
So this millimeter wave, and I don't know how to characterize the UHF spectrum.
Well, they bought a lot of stuff in the 500 megahertz, which is what the UHF broadcasters gave up. There were a number of bidders, and AT&T and Verizon were not
Okay,
amongst them.
so we'll
because they
just call it
already had
that.
the
Let's call it the 500 megahertz spectrum, the millimeter
Yeah,
wave,
right. Yeah.
and any potential fiber that they might do.
So millimeter wave is the ultra high frequency stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yes, yeah, it's a 60
that's the
gigahertz.
30 gigahertz stuff, and it's like you got to have a really good antenna and a really good line of sight.
It's going to be on the pole outside your house, basically.
Yeah.
That's essentially how that'll work.
Which means
But
they'd have
you
to
will
leave
get very
space.
high speeds.
Yeah. Oh, Brian, you said you got it once on a beach someplace if you oriented your phone just right? The millimeter wave stuff?
Oh, not in the US where
Oh.
they have it everywhere.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been
What kind-
around
what
for
kind of speed
decades.
did
I
you
mean,
see?
the technology's been around for a very long time. However, it's been largely relegated to indoor applications. You know, like cable replacements, like across the room. That's typically how that where the 60 gigahertz has been used. This is one of the initial applications for outdoors. Can I suggest, Brian, that we circulate the letter for next meeting?
I'll have to rewrite it from scratch because I figured this was ready to go as far as just a request for info about these antennas.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, circulate it. We can edit it and send it out. See if we get anybody. I mean, they're probably more willing to. They're looking for customers as opposed to some of the other entities that are larger. I mean, T-Mobile's mounting a huge publicity campaign, but from everything we've heard, not just from Wendy, but from other stuff that I've read, you know, you really got to have a good, clear signal to be able to make it work. If you do, then it's fine. But a lot of people are complaining that they don't.
Well,
Yeah,
you know something, the last time I
that's
talked to
that's
them,
why
which
we need to ask
last time
them.
I talked
Like,
to them, which was last week, because our service was, you know, pretty good for a while there, and then it just went away, as you remember from our last meeting. I called them up and cranked on them, and they said, "Oh well, we'll give you credit for this month." And I didn't even ask for it. They just said, and so I think they must be giving those away like candy to a lot of people who are complaining.
Mhm.
You know, that
All right,
that
so
just
why don't
the
we-
alacrity of their response kind of gave me that impression.
So we're like an hour and a half into this meeting already. I don't think we've
Yeah.
got the agenda yet.
Yeah.
So I
We gotta get,
on.
okay, Brian, you're gonna draft another version of this. Just to be, from my point of view, I see no real urgency in this letter, so you know, maybe we can review it the next time and pass it
Okay.
on to the select board.
Right.
Okay,
Eversource.
kind of the, you know, in terms of urgency, the same also applies to, I think, contacting Eversource.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, so I'm going to skip over that unless anybody has anything urgent. Okay, now we get to the letters previous. Go ahead, Brian.
we need poll data to start getting cost estimates with Whip City. So
Oh, that's right.
so it's not bottom of the priority. It's actually
Right.
much higher.
Well,
It's right after this gap funding.
one of the things we discussed last time, right, was waiting to see what Verizon provided, or are we going to overlap the Verizon request with the Eversource request?
Depends on who is responsive.
Well, as of right now, Verizon hasn't responded to our previous letter.
We do have a phone number for that woman, Ellen Cummings, that Brian supplied. It's a cell phone number, and I don't know whether
Yeah.
it would be best for us or someone from the town to try to, you know, if we don't get a response, call and say, "Hey, did you get our letter?"
All right, but we got to keep these separate a little bit here. So the poll data Verizon letter hasn't gone out.
Oh, okay.
So the question is, do we send them to Verizon and Eversource simultaneously, or do we wait a little bit to see if Verizon gets back to us before we send a letter to Eversource?
What's
Send them both
the
together.
downside to sending them out at the same time?
I don't think you're gonna get a quick response from either of them, so I think you should send out to both. And
Okay.
if you get one, you
All
get
right.
one.
Okay. Essentially, I would guess it would be the same format as the Verizon letter, one to Eversource. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think we get the letter off, but really we're gonna have to follow up with Eversource via email. I have the person's email. We're supposed to reach there, and Verizon, it's a cell phone number. So
Well,
if we want to actually
again,
reach them,
you know, right now, either of these letters or both of these letters need to go to the select board for approval and sending.
Okay.
So it would presumably be good to have both letters in front of the select board at the same time.
Okay,
Mm,
I would guess they'd be identical letters, right? Or close
Right.
to it.
pretty much.
Yeah,
Okay,
essentially identical. Is if we have to follow up is where it gets different because the authorities and statutes are different if we have to try to compel this info. So, but just asking nicely, it's the same exact letter.
Hmm.
okay. We are going to be meeting before the next select board meeting, so we can finalize both of these letters at the next meeting.
I think we already finalized the Verizon letter.
Yeah, we did.
We finalized the Verizon. Should we just
The Verizon was supposed to be sent off to the town administrator and Kathleen and CC Mary Jane, I believe.
Mhm.
okay. Do we want to draft the same letter to Eversource and just get that in the mix too?
Yeah, I think
Um,
that's what we're saying.
Right.
We could just add that on top of the Verizon letter that was already sent.
Okay, Brian, do you want to draft that? You drafted the first poll request.
I can't take on more stuff. So
Okay.
we already have the, I thought we already
Okay.
finalized the Verizon letter.
Can we just copy and paste it and send it to Eversource? Is it, are they,
Yeah,
they're that similar?
It's the same thing. We just have to figure out the contact at Eversource for formal letters. Let me look for their legal and government contact. We do it right now.
Okay.
All right, well.
Okay, we can do that offline, actually. Let's move forward.
And if I'm willing to sit there and edit it, if you want to send me the Verizon letter, if even if I don't have the address, I can at least rewrite the text for Eversource, and hopefully they'll be more responsive. They do seem to do a lot more outreach than Verizon does. I get stuff from them all the time. How did we do on this power failure? How is your service?
Yeah.
Who's got the committee approved version of the Verizon letter? Because I have the drafts, but I just wanted to see which is the committee approved version.
Let's see what I have.
I don't know. Well, Bob, what did you send to, do you have a copy of what you sent to with the town administrator?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up here.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think,
The only one I have is the one about FiOS. I don't have the
yeah,
other.
I think the idea is to just send it to John.
Yeah, just send me what that original was, and I'll rewrite it to Eversource, and then just someone has to come up with an address, and I'll be happy to do it.
Okay,
Dropped it in the chat. Other correspondence address. Eversource.
Okay, let me see if I can copy this. Let's see if I can copy it. And just a little bit of Word. Okay, I've got that. Okay, in my downloads folder.
So, Bob, while they're doing that, can I bring up the Comcast letter just briefly?
yes, please.
So Comcast has not replied to anybody. So how do we do a follow-up? Anybody know?
That's what I was talking about previously. I'll reach out to Mary Jane and ask her what the best next steps would be to try to follow up or put pressure on Comcast to get some information,
Great.
or maybe a contact person. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we have a contact person. It's I forget his name, but Michael somebody. He's the one that's come into the select board meetings and talked to the select board in the past.
Right. Yeah, so maybe that's the avenue we have to take. with
Yeah, I
phone,
think it's
phone
definitely the avenue
follow-up.
we have to take, but who does it? Is that Mary Jane? Is that Marlene? Is that us?
Probably Mary Jane
Okay,
or designee.
okay. And is that something you would converse with her directly, or does Bob need to send her
Yes.
an email?
Well, it actually probably should come from the chair. Yeah,
Okay.
we should, yeah, it should come from the chair. And I can ask her, say, hey, Bob's gonna reach out to you regarding, I can start that conversation.
Okay,
So did we find the actual Verizon letter that we proposed? I don't have that. I've got the address now where to send it to.
Okay, one moment, hang on. I'm trying to send it to you. I do have it.
Okay. I
Let
can
me
just
send it around.
easily do it.
Okay, what's going on here? Okay, instead of wasting time here, I'll get that out right
Send it out
after.
when you can, and I'll rewrite it in the next couple of days, and I'll have it ready for the next meeting.
Yeah, I've got it as a PDF. I'm looking for a Word version of it.
Yeah, PDF. I have a PDF editor, so it's okay. I can
Cool. Okay.
just copy and paste it back into Word if I have to.
Mhm.
Okay, very good. Yeah, let's move along here. Let me get the agenda back. Got too many screens open. I apologize. Okay, the next item on the list is Town of Bourne poll permits. Trying to,
We were going to talk to the town engineer about that.
yeah, I did not. So I'm going to follow up on that. I'm going to go over to see Tim about something else, and I never was able to catch up with him when I was over there 2 days ago. Okay. Let me write this down. Okay, moving on, the area challenge model. The rules are going to come out mid-November, Brian, as I recall.
Soon, yeah.
Okay.
11th roughly.
Okay, we'll have time to at the next meeting to get the letter that we're going to send out. It would have to be at that I guess it's the 14th is the next select board meeting that doesn't discuss town meeting stuff. I'm looking for the
We could
letter
also
here.
send the letter before the rules come out, if that helps, because we roughly know what it's going to be in there. We
So
already know
yeah.
the problems.
I sent to, where last time we were gonna have people submit comments. I got comments from Tony. And I sent them to the committee. Tony did rewrite quite a bit of the letter, so I created a clean version.
And I thought it was excellent, by the way. I sent you a
Agreed.
couple other changes, Jed, but what Tony did was really good.
Loved it. Loved the changes Tony
Yeah,
made.
it was perfect. It should just go.
So do we
Yeah,
wanna,
that's fine.
then formally accept Tony's letter as the one we're gonna send from the town, from the committee?
I second that.
Okay,
Okay,
Do we just
yeah,
need to double check there's a line saying, making sure there's a line at the end saying we understand that more rules are gonna be coming out in the coming days?
yeah,
Oh.
that was my question. Do we send it out with that caveat, or do we wait to send it, to tweak it and when we have them? And I think sending it with the caveat is going to be faster.
I second that. Send it with the caveat, make a note that we understand that additional rules are gonna come out in the coming days, but for expediency's sake, we are sending this based on currently available information.
do we wanna live edit that now? What if somebody
Yes,
wants?
please.
What is the timeline for approval on this letter?
Last week,
No,
Well,
why?
it'd be,
Why does it need to be approved at, because
This
Well,
one would come from us. It doesn't come from the Board of Selectmen, am I correct? It's coming from the CTAC?
Mm.
I don't think
It's
so.
just, is it comments for the open forum? Is that what it is? The
No, I
public
think
forum?
it's ahead of that.
I think,
I
yeah,
can
I
bring
think
up
it
if-
really does.
Yeah.
You know, from the contents, I think it really does need to come from the select board.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Yeah, so-
what's the goal? What is the purpose again? Remind me of, there's so many letters here. So
exactly.
remind me. So what is
MBI
the
has lost
intent?
sight. MBI has lost sight of the point of this challenge program, and it's to remind them that it's to help these areas of the state that are not, whose issues are not captured under the normal bead rules. And they've lost sight of that in how they've implemented this.
Okay, so again, timeline. They're putting out the regs. The regs are coming out. The regs are the regs. That's the timeline. Is it more beneficial to send after? Well, we're sending this letter after it's not going to impact the regs.
No.
Well, again,
I think
Is it
early
just
and
a
often
general
is how we
letter?
deal with
Is it-
MBI.
Is it just a general letter of concern that we have in the operations of the MBI? Is that what the purpose of this is?
No, it's targeted specifically to the bead and bead challenge. So it's not a critique of MBI as an organization.
Not directly, anyway.
no, it basically it's the underserved process, the process of declaring areas underserved. And what
Okay.
we're commenting on that, there will probably be another opportunity when these regulations come out, because there's going to be a 30-day comment period. So that's where we do, you know, perhaps line by line comments on the whole thing. But this is to, you know, stake a flag at the beginning of the process and say, we've got concerns right from the outset, even before we see the formal regulations from your office. So we may have another set of comments. The difficulty, Anne Marie, the one fear here is that if the regulations come out, say November 15th or something like that, just after the select board meeting, we've got to then comment on those, write a letter about the comments, get it approved by this committee, get it sent to the select board, and have the select board get it out within the 30-day comment period. Okay. So the idea is
that's the timeline. You want it
that
out
is,
during the 30-day comment period. That's what I'm getting at.
well, no, this one is before we've even seen the regulations to comment on officially. So this is just staking a claim and say, generally, we understand them that they're going to include the following, and we have these following concerns. We want to get make you aware of that beforehand. And then later on, if we can, we'll get the way you usually do comments on a regulation is you almost comment line by line about what you like, don't like, or disagree with.
Right,
Uh,
right.
you know,
So
yeah.
this letter
Maybe
is
we know a second set of comments is going to come afterwards. So say this is our first letter to you of concerns, and then we will have subsequent ones as we can get them approved.
right. So this isn't really,
As
so
indicated, yeah.
in my thinking and what the select board thinking, this isn't just a consent agenda item. This is going to have to be a separate agenda item because of what the content of this is. And I would think that we need to have somewhat of a presentation for this letter and a little bit of background, other than just, you know, other than just saying this is a good letter to send.
Okay.
So,
And that would be the 14th.
I don't know that we can get it on that agenda for the 14th. I'll
Okay.
try.
Okay.
But so the letter would have to be approved now and sent
To the select
again
board.
to Kathleen and
yeah.
to the TA, excuse me, Mary Jane and Kathleen, so that, you know, they can get it on the agenda if they choose to get it on the agenda. I mean, I can request it, but there are specific right now, each month, items that are very, prioritized with respect to agenda items. So,
Okay, can I move to have the committee approve the letter with the caveat as previously described? So it can get off and get this started now.
I'd like to see the text. What text are we adding?
yeah, we should be
Can we pull
approving, we should be reviewing actual documentation. We shouldn't
Exactly,
be
yes.
approving something that
Well, we have
might
it.
sound good.
Yep.
So we
Okay,
need,
We have it.
it's
Okay.
a tight line. It's a tight line
Yeah.
to get this letter.
Here we
There
are.
it is, right there. That's. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay,
What do you want?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do. I think after the last sentence is where you want to put, we understand that, or we reserve or we understand the possibility of future concerns based on the release of regulations of whatever date that was. And we'll respond as needed at that time.
If possible. Sorry, I said that out loud.
Mm,
So we understand the possibility of future concerns and will
that-
respond if possible.
and we'll respond at that time,
They don't make it easy to respond to them with these timelines. It's always a fire drill.
Yeah. Future concerns which may arise when the actual regulations are promulgated.
Yeah,
or how about just say, we expect to have detailed comments once the draft rules for the area challenge are issued by your office, and we'll submit them at that time.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
clear.
that's better. Can you say
Yeah.
this is a preliminary letter, and then we expect to have more.
Comments when the draft regulations are released.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
This is a preliminary letter. A preliminary response.
Is it a preliminary letter of concern?
There you go.
There we go. That's a good way to call it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we've staked a claim that we're going to be there when these come
Yeah,
out.
and we are paying
Excellent.
attention. All righty.
Okay. So Wendy made a motion to
To accept it as
Approve.
amended, yeah.
as amended. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Tony. I loved it.
beautiful job, Tony.
Yep.
Really hit the nail on the head. You kind of pounded it onto them a little bit.
Thank you for turning my 3 pots of coffee banged out onto a page into something coherent.
Very good. Okay, thank you to all. Okay, I have a
So,
motion on the floor.
Just a matter of process here. So I'm going to drop this into an email right now to the whole committee, and then Bob, you will.
Yeah, you're going to
forward
send it to
this,
me.
right? Okay.
Forwarded it to the administrator Kathleen with a CC to MJ, right?
No, to the TA
TA Kathleen
and
ask them-
MJ.
and MJ
Yeah.
and MJ. Okay.
Could I bring up one more quick related point? Because I've read this stuff over quite a bit. Is there any, would it be helpful if we possibly reached out to any of our state reps with copies of this stuff? Because it seems
Sure.
like, that MBI seems, from what I'm seeing, to be resistant to responding to us. But the state reps seem to be able to sometimes light a
Shake
fire.
hands a little bit. Sure, why not? There's no particular reason why it shouldn't be CC'd to the entire Cape Cod delegation.
I have a list of addresses which I can email out to everyone. That I went and did some research on the local papers and also who our local reps are, and I have all their addresses. So should I send that out to everybody or just you, Wendy, or?
Well, what do you want me to do? I mean, it has to go out from the select board, right? So why don't we just put CCs
Well,
down at the bottom?
yeah, I'm not sure on this one. I mean, it's gonna be the select board's decision on whether it comes just solely from the CTAC or whether it comes from, right, the select board. Because some of these letters don't need to come from the select board, but the select board has to approve them before they go out, whether they represent what, right? So,
So it would appear that our CC list is up to us. They just need to approve the content of the letter itself.
Right, if they approve it, then we can send it, which I would think we could. We're an advisory committee and
Yes.
we're just asking questions.
And this is a pretty tame letter.
Thank you, Tucker. Just asking the question. Absolutely. Yeah, if they get it approved, if you send it to me on the appropriate letterhead, then I can get it to all the state reps, you know, and all our Cape Cod delegation. Or John, if you've already got that list.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you that list. I'm digging for it. I've got it in a file folder here someplace. I've got a list of all the state reps who represent the Cape.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we can send it to them and have them send it out, because I mean, it sounds to me like MBI has been giving us short shrift on a lot of this stuff. And these are, you know, we're presenting them with legitimate problems, and they are not answering.
Okay, so I'll CC it to the Cape Cod delegation and the enterprise and anybody else.
Doesn't the select board need to approve it first?
Yeah, no, it's got to go to the select board, and you know what I'm going to just say, at least for the time being, with the text, is that we would like to copy this letter to our delegation and also to the media, and say we can either send that as SciTac or the select board can with the CCs. I'll just ask that question.
Okay.
Yeah, because our concerns are probably being echoed in other towns. It's just we might be the first to get them onto the page. Definitely had these concerns brought up on the tech council calls, had it brought up on calls with other places off Cape, with Cape Cod Commission. You know, this is probably the first time all of these have been put onto the paper formally.
Okay.
And the more we publish this, the more we publish this and market this, our names in the paper, and we become the town that's actually doing something about it, and other people will jump on board. So,
and the more noise we make, the more trucks keep getting rolled in Bourne to fix stuff. So antennas keep getting upgraded, nodes keep getting split. Like magically, the more noise and politely obnoxious we are, the more helpful we are being towards our mission of fixing the problem.
Okay, so just so I'm clear on who pending approval by the powers that be, that'll be everybody in the Cape Cod delegation, the enterprise, Cape Cod Times. Who else?
I just sent you a list of all that stuff.
You said who, Brian?
Ziaros or whatever his name is. He'll probably want to copy.
He's on that list.
He's part of the
he's on the list.
Delegation.
Okay.
Okay. How about who's going to send it to MBI?
Well, it'll come from the if I'm going to ask the question of Marlene, does this need to come
from them or from us, right?
Yes. Okay. Exactly. After the select board approves it.
Okay.
Right.
And then we'll know who it gets sent to. And do you want me to send that, put that on the list? Or do you want to send it yourself?
Well, I'm going to send it to this to Marlene for submittal to the select board.
I understand that, but after they pass on it.
Well, after they pass on it, we'll have another meeting here, and then we can discuss exactly where we're going to go from there.
Right.
Okay.
But I just think my experience
send me all the addresses of people or entities you think would like would would benefit by seeing this.
I sent you a list of Barnstable, all of our reps, and it's all in there. I know from personal experience from my wife's former business where she had issues getting insurance coverage for certain medical patients, that finally our state rep in Natick was able to reach out to Mary Lou Sutters, and lo and behold, she
Just
got
like
it done.
magic.
She made
I
a
think we
couple
can
of phone
pick this
calls
up.
and-
I think we can pick this up after the select board approves the letter.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to let them know that we intend to send it out to the delegation, et cetera, and we'll go from there.
I might
Okay,
even send
I
it
have
to
a
the
motion on
board.
the floor to approve that letter. I have a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Nice.
Any opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay, let me get my agenda back up here really quickly. Okay. Anne Marie, any contacts in the core at all to?
Not yet. They're only referring me back to Enbridge, so I might have to try a different avenue on that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I've got some emails at the core, but they're probably dated at this point. Would those be helpful?
Sure.
yeah. Anne Marie, do you have a core contact who sits in on this advisory committee on the transportation portion of it?
Yeah, I don't know that name. I would probably know the face. I mean, there's so many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's 25 people in the room, but I probably do.
Okay, if you can
I
dig
just
up.
don't know it yet. I'll ask Peter, because Peter's been on the committee longer, and Judy Froman was I replaced Judy on it. So I could get a name through them.
Okay, very good. Moving on. Next, committee email address. I went into town hall last week, and I just got an email from Maria last night. Did anyone else get an email from Maria with a?
I did.
I
Okay.
got something confirming it was a thing from some outfit that it's internet outfit that does town communications, and it said, please, send reply if you got this.
Well, they
Okay.
wanted you to send it to Maria if you got it.
Which I did. I replied to Maria. That's where
Yeah,
it
and so
went.
you had to do a forward because reply didn't work.
Oh,
Ah,
If you
really?
get a reply, it goes, who knows where. You had to forward it to Maria's email. Anyway, it does work. I went onto the webpage. I was able to bring up the form. So we have it there.
Okay, so we're in business.
Yeah, can we just reiterate the process? This want to be, so
yeah. How do
when
you?
anybody puts an email into that form, it's going to go to the whole committee. Right? So I think the process that we discussed was that Wendy would reply saying, got your
got it.
email.
Yeah.
We have a record of it. Thank you. And just leave it at that. And then Bob will make a decision on how to deal with the email by forwarding it to someone else or replying himself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Okay, say that last again, please.
So the email goes to everybody.
Yeah, then
First step
I'll
is that Wendy, you reply just
and I'll
acknowledging
acknowledge
receipt
it.
of the email, just nothing else but saying, we got your
Right.
email.
And then Bob will
Thank
do
you for
what?
sending it, right, and that's it. Then
And Bob will
Bob
do
will
what?
make a decision on how it gets handled at that point by either responding himself or asking somebody else to handle it.
Okay.
Or God
Great.
forbid, maybe putting an agenda item on.
Ah.
Well, that's Bob, that's your choice, right?
Yeah,
That's your choice. So
right.
and then that email course, one of the things that as a policy that we've just recently approved was that email should state the individual's name and have either the village or an address to make it a legitimate email from someone within the community. So, because we find ourselves as a select board getting emails from
All sorts of places. Yeah.
right. So addressing all sorts of issues, which is outside, really, they're not community members. So I don't
say
know
that on the form?
I'm checking right now.
Oh, awesome.
How do you get into it? Because it's asking. Well,
It's
I have
on
to
the
ask
main
Sarah,
page.
I'm sorry.
It's on the main committee page.
Oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
know.
upper left.
Okay, because I'm looking at it. Okay, let me see boards and committees.
Upper
Okay,
left, it says contact us.
right. Okay, and
Click
how do
on
we
that.
read it though?
And then, it just says name, email, message. There's nothing in there. It's just a form you fill out, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but it should say name and village, Bourne Village or,
Yeah,
I'm
so,
just telling you what's there.
okay.
okay.
And then those
Well-
emails are public correspondence as well. It's
I
considered public
understand that, but
correspondence.
if we're supposed to be able to verify whether they are actual Bourne residents, there should be something on that submission form that says,
Well,
what
you
village
you
in
could type
Bourne do
anything.
you?
Yes, but anybody could put anything they want in there.
Well, that's true,
Right,
but that'll
right.
deter some people.
So, I mean, that's, Bob's discretion on the content
Yeah.
of the email and whether it's an
Okay.
agenda item or referring it to somebody. You just acknowledge that
Yeah.
it was
Or,
received.
yeah, or
Yeah.
going into the circular file.
It
Yeah.
would just
Can I-
acknowledge that it's received.
Oh, yeah, I
Okay.
got that.
Because everybody is going to be receiving these things, just to formalize what the response is. Can we put an agenda item for the future agendas, a new item 3, and it says review of correspondence received?
Got it?
That's what we do. We have public correspondence as an agenda item.
Yeah. Well, and just make that item 3, and the old and ongoing becomes item 4.
Mhm.
And that just gives an excuse to discuss. If we've got stuff coming in, I'd like to let everybody know how I responded to it.
Got it?
Sure. Okey doke.
Okay. Wow, 2 hours in. Okay.
What
Any
we do.
other business right now before we put the agenda together for the next meeting? Okay, hearing none. Jed's screen is coming up. I've got 3 screens open here. I apologize. Okay.
You need a bigger monitor.
I'm working with a I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm working with a 17-inch laptop, and I've got two screens open on that, and then I've my cell phone. So my eyes are crossed right now. Does anything on this really need to change?
Well, this is a new one I put up. So
Yeah.
I added item 3.
Yeah.
Okay. On 4C, I added joining the Mass Broadband Coalition.
Mhm.
And there has to be, I'm gonna submit the letter for review to the letter to Eversource.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is just what we're gonna discuss next time. So the Gap Networks is there. I put an item up here about discussing whether or not we want to follow up with the Cape Cod Commission. Although that'll be on the 9th. Maybe we don't need that there next time. Right? We don't need that for the 9th. We do that on the 16th.
Okay.
Then the information requests, I added the letter for T-Mobile future plans. The Eversource one is there. That's all the same. I added this. Anything else?
Do we? You have,
There you go.
but did we send a previous letter to Verizon?
Yes,
Or we did?
yes,
It's not the one that's including the poll data that's referenced
correct.
up above.
Yeah, we sent one about FiOS plans.
Well, files,
Oh,
which we
right,
haven't
right,
heard a
right,
response to yet.
Right.
Right, okay.
So I have a rough draft of the thing done. Maybe send it to Wendy to clean it up a little bit for
Sure.
the
Okay.
T-Mobile letter.
Anything else on the agenda?
Yeah.
No, send it
Nope.
along. I'll
All
take
right,
it.
I'll send it to Maria after we get, after we wrap up here.
Okay.
Okay,
Okey doke.
Well, that was fun. Motion to
Okay.
adjourn?
second,
All in
All in
favor?
favor?
In favor.
Yes.
Okay, Jed, you're gonna terminate recording, and Send me that packet.